Hi, I'm Theresa and welcome to my channel. Today I'm here with my April wrap-up. So this has been an interesting reading month because it has been the end of my university semester. I've literally just submitted my last assessments this morning and I was meant to have my last class, but it was cancelled because the whole system went down. It's a big drama. But anyway, yes, I've had end of university, which is obviously stressful and busy, but I also had spring break, when I thought I was going to read heaps during spring break, and I did not. So it's been a weird month for reading, and it's also been all but one book has been fantasy or like sci-fi or something, which is very unusual for me recently, but overall I've very much loved everything I've read, and I'm so excited to talk to you about all of these books today. And I just want to say that since university is now done, I'm actually hoping to be able to spend more time on my content, so maybe look out for more than one video a week from me, as well as getting back to regular posting on my Instagram and TikTok, and you can find links to those in the description if you're interested. But yes, let's get on to what I read this month. So the first book I read in April was These Feathered Flames by Alexandra Overy. I read this as an ARC, although it has now released, so you can buy it yourself. And this is an Russian-inspired YA fantasy. It's the first in, I believe, a duology, and it retells the myth of the Firebird. And so you follow the perspectives of two sisters. You've got Asia, who is the Firebird or becoming the Firebird, and this means that when people perform magic in this country, they have to pay a price, and when they do not pay it, she has to go and take the price from them. And you also follow her sister, Isaveta, who is a princess at the very beginning of the novel, but then following their mother's death, she becomes queen. And so following their mother's death, the two sisters meet at the palace again for the first time in like 7 years to go through all the ceremony and everything, with Isaveta ascending and being coronated. And there's so much political intrigue, and it's so just well written. I really enjoyed reading it. And you get this really complicated relationship between the sisters because they went from being so close as children to obviously growing apart and growing into completely different young women through 7 years apart. And there's also some romance. Asia has a female love interest, a bodyguard who hates her, and it's so good. I really love this. You've got enemies to lovers, it's brilliant. And yes, I just really loved reading from these two perspectives and how different the sisters are and how this is like reconciled, and just the intrigue is so good, the court politics, all of that. If you're a fan of political fantasy, you will really enjoy this one. And yeah, this book is just to do with monsters and what it means to be a monster and all of that, and that's so interesting as well to explore. You know, magic, there's a gorgeous, lovely Russian setting and complicated relationships, and you've got a nice soft scholar boy, you've got lots of betrayal and plot twists, and it's just so good, such a lot of fun. I definitely recommend you pick this one up. The next few books you may already be familiar with. These are the ones I read for my Reading Twitter's favourite sapphic books vlog. So the first of these is The Midnight Lie by Marie Rakowski. And I don't think I'm going to spend too much time on these ones just because I have spoken about them a lot in that video. So I definitely recommend you check that out if you want to know more of my thoughts on any of them. I will leave a link in the description. And so this is also the first in a YA fantasy duology, and this follows a main character called Nidim, and she lives in the ward. This is an area of her city reserved for a kind of lower class population where they have very limited rights and freedoms, and it's a very harsh life. And one day she ends up in prison and this is very common. You know, anything's a crime here, walking with your hands in your pockets, wearing colour, all of that. So it's not unheard of to end up in prison. And there she meets Sid. And Sid is this like rakish traveller from another land. And this is very unusual because where Naren lives, you don't get travellers. Half the population think that they are the only place to exist. And so Naren and Sid kind of strike up this relationship. It's not even friendship, they just snipe at each other and it's so fun to read. But Sid reveals to Nurem that she suspects that the High Kith, this kind of higher class, that ruling class, possess magic. And Nera has to choose between continuing her life as it is in the ward, where it's very hard and strict, or trusting Sid, who asked not to be trusted, just based on the everything about her, and exploring this magic of the High Kith. And this book is so good if you want a romance-based fantasy that is sapphic. I highly, highly recommend this. This is incredible for yearning and pining and so good, and just I cannot sing its praises enough in terms of the romance. I gave this one 5 stars, just based almost entirely on that, and on the ending just will blow your mind. It's so good. I cannot wait for the sequel. I really enjoyed this world. You really don't understand a lot of it until later on, but it's so good. And just Niram's character development as she goes from being this girl that's constantly taken advantage of to questioning her society and standing up for herself. And it's so good to read. Love it so much. And you also navigate comphet, so compulsive heterosexuality, which is really, really interesting to see in a fantasy world, and I really enjoyed it. Love my little lesbians. I just cannot recommend this book enough. I should also say I have reviews for both of these books I've spoken about, and I'll link them down below, along with Goodreads links for all of these books and review links for other ones where I've got them. And the next book I read was This Is How You Lose the Time War by Max Gladstone and Amel El-Moutar. So this is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, but make it two agents on opposite ends of a centuries-long time war. It's so good. This book I was very intimidated by. I wasn't certain I was going to like it, but I really, really, really liked it. This follows, as I said, two agents on opposite sides of a time war, and they're each meddling with the threads of time to try and get the future that their agency wants, and also trying to thwart the other. And one day, one of them, Blue, writes a letter for the other, Red, and this begins this correspondence between the two that begins off with this kind of sarcastic and sniping and kind of mocking each other, and begins to develop into something real. And this is basically a crime. They would be executed if their agencies knew that they were doing this, but they cannot stop writing to each other and falling in love, and it's so good. So, so highly recommend it. The writing in this is just gorgeous and lyrical, and oh, such gorgeous imagery and everything. I cannot sing its praises enough, and I just really enjoyed it so much more than I expected to. I'd been very, very intimidated by it because I'm not a big sci-fi person. I'd heard it's very confusing, and I wouldn't say it's nearly as confusing as other people make it out to be. It takes a little bit to settle in, but I didn't find it confusing at all, and I usually really, really struggle with sci-fi, and I've not been able to read much of anything other than contemporary recently, so my brain has been just a blob, but I managed it, so I'm sure if you've also been putting it off because you're intimidated, you will also manage. It is very good, and it's only like 200 pages, so like, it's not difficult. And yes, highly recommend it. The Romeo and Juliet parallels are just chef's kiss. And next up, again for that vlog, was On a Sunbeam by Tilly Walden. This is a graphic novel. It is chunky and it is absolutely beautiful. So this follows a main character called Mia, who has just joined this crew of people rebuilding just broken down buildings, and this crew, there's big found family energy. Love it so much. And we also follow a timeline of her in the past attending boarding school, where she meets and she falls in love with another girl called Grace. And as these two timelines kind of line up, we discover that the reason Mia has joined this crew is because she is looking to track down Grace, the girl she fell in love with, and was kind of tragically separated from. So you follow them trying to find Grace, and it is so damn good, so pretty. I cannot recommend this graphic novel enough. This is also set in space and is absolutely not terrifying in terms of being a sci-fi book or anything like that. It is so easy to read. It's just this like nice cool background setting rather than being, you know, central to the plot in that kind of way, if that makes sense. But oh, the art is so, so, so gorgeous, and I love the character dynamics and all of that, the found family of it all. So good. And what really sold me to pick up this book was that there are no men. Every single character is either a woman or a non-binary person. No men. It is a wonderful, and oh, cannot recommend this enough if you're looking for a graphic novel that is just soft and character focused and found family and all of that. So highly recommend it. Next up for the vlog, I read Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir, and then I'm also going to speak about the sequel, Harrow the Ninth. And these books, very much enjoyed. Again, these were ones I was very intimidated by because people said you're not going to understand a thing. I didn't quite have that problem with Gideon, but I definitely did with Harrow. But absolutely, that was to be expected. You know, it's done on purpose to confuse you and to then shock you with all these wonderful reveals. So yes, I've read these two and I'm planning on reading later today the kind of little, I don't even know if you could call it a novella because it's like 30 pages, but the little bonus short, which is called The Mysterious Study of Dr. Sex. And I'm hoping to read this later on today and up my total books for this month because it is quite shameful. So this series is very much sold as lesbian necromancers in space, and that is exactly what you get, and it is so good. So in Gideon, we follow Gideon, who is indentured to the ninth house. And so in the society, different areas of the solar system are ruled over by these houses, and there are 9 of them, and the kind of leading family of all of these houses are necromancers. And so when Harrow, who is the reverend daughter of the ninth house, is summoned by the emperor along with people from each of the houses to participate in a competition to become the emperor's new lictors, which are these like immortal, all-powerful warriors. She obviously wants to go and has to go really to kind of protect her house and its image because it is failing very badly. But to go, she needs a cavalier, a swordswoman, and so Gideon is roped into going with her. And this causes some problems because Gideon and Harrow detest each other and have done since infancy. So you get some really, really fun character dynamics with them because they absolutely detest each other, but they're each the only person the other can trust in this competition where they're just set loose in this castle with all the other necromancers from the other families. And this is so good. So in this first one, you've got like a magical competition, such fun character dynamics, as I've kind of mentioned, between everyone that's just set loose together to be like, yeah, just figure it out. We'll give you some puzzles. And so good, so fun. And I gave this one 5 stars. It just made me feral. The ending threw me a bit, as I talked about quite extensively in the vlog. And this wasn't because it was a bad ending, but rather because it wasn't what I wanted and it was going to make what I wanted rather difficult. But after having read Harrow, I can definitely admire the ending and its role in making it more difficult to get me what I want, making it more angsty. But overall, very, very much enjoyed this duology. I haven't given Harrow a rating yet, but I'm thinking probably be like 4 stars. It wasn't quite as good as Gideon for me. Harrow began very, very confusingly, which I knew because I had looked up spoilers before reading it because I wanted to know what the ending of Gideon would mean. But but it is very, very confusing, and I think that would have been fine, but most of the book was like that, and I'd have liked for there to be this switch to things starting to make sense a bit later on. Because even though I knew what to look for, because I had looked up spoilers, I was still like, come on, come on, come on, let's get going with it. Because it felt like not a huge amount was happening. So that would have been my only criticism of Harrow. The benefit of Harrow was we got to spend more time with Iante. I do not know if that's how you say her name, but that's how I'm saying it. Which was a whole lot of fun, and got to spend more time with Harrow herself, and I love her. She's so edgy. I love these girls so much. I will stop talking about them soon, I promise, but in case you doubt my love, I've changed my home screen on my phone to art from the book. Yeah. My lock screen, I've got Harrow and Gideon together, then my home screen's just Gideon. And can I just say, the art for these books is very good and very sexy. I highly recommend, if you've read the books and not checked out the fan art, go do that because it's so good. But yes, anyway, loved these. I was terrified to read them, but they weren't actually that terrifying. And they make you go feral, and they've got amazing character dynamics and this dark humor, and it's gothic and fantasy and sci-fi horror blend, and it's so good. Highly recommend. And the last book I read was a complete change of pace, and that is She Drives Me Crazy by Kelly Quinlan. So this book also came out this month, and I also read it as an ARC, and it is so good, so fun. So this is a YA rom-com, and you follow a main character called Scotty who plays on her school's basketball team, and she's still trying to get over her ex-girlfriend. And when she gets into a fender bender with Irene, the popular girl at school, who hates her and she hates Irene, and it's enemies to lovers, guys. And has to drive Irene to school. She decides, why not fake date? Because she wants to make her ex jealous, and she enjoys the kind of popularity boost she gets from associating with Irene, and the boost that gives her team to hopefully be able to beat her girlfriend's new basketball team because she moves schools. And so you just get this fun, tropey, cliche rom-com, absolutely just an absolute like ode to 90s rom-coms, and it's so fun. It's got fake dating, enemies to lovers, there's only one bed, it's set in like this Christmas town, which is so fun, and all of that. But Kelly Quinlan is such a talent for writing characters, and I've only read this one book by her, but I will be reading the rest soon, and I can already tell you, so good at characters and development. So Scotty, as I've said, is getting over this relationship, and this was not a healthy relationship, it's very toxic, and you very much follow her kind of realizing this and dealing with it and healing from it, and the effect that this has on her and her life and her relationships outside of this, like with her family and friends. And it's all done so well. I so enjoyed reading it, and her development is just so good, and the way that this factors into her relationship, or fake relationship, with Irene is again so good. I just loved how Kelly wrote the characters and these relationships, and loved it so much. So excited to read more from her. I'm actually planning on vlogging reading, well, I've vlogged reading She Drives Me Crazy, and will be vlogging Late to the Party and Her Name in the Sky, Kelly's other two books, so you can look out for that sometime soon. But in the meantime, so highly recommend that one, so much fun. And yes, most definitely a change of pace from all my fantasy sci-fi books earlier this month. But oh, it was such a good reading month. Even though I've definitely read less, and I've actually taken a week off of reading just for the last week of the semester because I was feeling a bit burned out and not slumpy, but I didn't want to read, so I wasn't going to force myself, especially as I was very busy otherwise. But I'm very much looking forward to now getting back into reading. And yes, this has been very long-winded, I feel, but I hope you have enjoyed watching and you're going to consider picking up some of these books because I cannot recommend them enough. I think every single book in this video is sapphic. Oh, love that for me. Such good taste over here. And as I've mentioned, you'll find Goodreads links for all of these books, as well as my reviews for most of them. And you'll find my social media in the description, as well as my bookshop affiliate link, should you fancy buying some books and supporting me, the environment, and independent bookstores. And yes, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and I will see you with another video soon.